started. So welcome everybody, and thank you all for kind of hanging out till the very end. Appreciate it. Nice to be able to talk to at least a person or two. And so my name is Robin Sullivan, and I am the Associate Director and an Instructional Designer with the Teaching and Learning Center at the University of Buffalo. And I'm going to talk to you today about an activity called Tools of Engagement, and it's a discovery learning activity. And this was initially used in a course that I taught as an adjunct, in addition to my full-time position as the Associate Director, teaching for the Library Information Sciences program. This is a course for those who are coming in to learn how to become librarians. And so this activity was originally used for students to help them understand information technologies, to be able to use them in their student careers and lifelong careers. And it's been recently kind of modified and is still a work in process being modified to be used as a faculty development, professional development activity. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that. So, some of the themes that I'm going to talk about have been talked about all week long, as far as the instructional technologies that are constantly changing. You know, it's very difficult for faculty and students to keep up and be able to use these technologies to be able to collaborate, communicate, and share information. And in today's society, 21st century learners, and everybody, you need to learn how to effectively navigate information. Web 2.0 skills and Web 2.0 collaborative tools are essential. And I think we've heard this through the keynote speaker talking about the connectivism, and also one of the featured speakers, Tom Mackey, talking about how students and faculty need to become information literate, the new term transliteracy, and nobody's even agreed on those terms yet. But in essence, the idea is to be able to find, evaluate, and use information effectively. So if we can teach our faculty to do that well, they can teach our students to do that well, we will have a productive society. And there's inevitable changes. So in order to keep up with those changes, technology changes all the time. I know that there's the struggles on going from Angel to Blackboard to other course management systems. Just one tiny example of technological changes. If we can all become self-directed and lifelong learners, then we'll be able to keep up with these changes and understand the principles behind using all of these tools to navigate the information landscape that's out there. So, there was an activity that was designed for the graduate students in LIS, and it's a website that kind of walks them through, paces them through activities that focus on all of these different concepts. So teaches how to do blogging, there's a lot of tutorials, discovery activities, learning about audio and video sharing sites, photo sharing sites, what is a new RSS newsreader, social bookmarking, using citation management tools, and there's just millions and millions of tools out there. So it doesn't try to focus on all of them in no way. Tries to give the concepts about what these general terms are, points people, faculty, students, whoever, to some examples so that exploration can be done, and play and fun, and just kind of experimenting with these different ways of communicating and collaborating. The main objective of the project is to encourage faculty to explore new instructional technologies in their teaching. And so through this website, faculty or students, if you choose to use it in your class, would go to the site. The initial activity is to learn about lifelong learning, to learn how important it is to have fun and to explore and play and not be afraid to take risks in learning about new things. You're not going to learn things if you're comfortable with your own little world. You're not going to expand and if you don't take risks. So as you're going through the activities, the first thing that you do is you create a personal blog. And you go through and you explore the tutorials about lifelong learning. And then you write about, you reflect on what does that mean to you and how are you going to apply that throughout this whole process. And you'd be able to share your comments with the others who are going through this process along with you. So let me give you just a little bit of history about how this came to be. There is a pretty popular professional goal-setting activity on the web called 43 Things. And if you just Google 43 Things, you will come up with massive amounts of different types of versions of this. And you can even go to, I think this is 43things.com, and you can track your goals and your process of how you're going to just get through 43 different goals of what you have for your professional development. And you can collaborate with people from around the world who are also going through this. Kind of like you've heard the term MOOC, multi-user, open online course. Kind of the same concept before the concept was actually defined. That idea was kind of modified from a library who wanted to provide their staff some encouragement for professional development. So they took the 43 Things idea, condensed it down into 23 activities that were relevant for librarians to become more adept at using the Web 2.0 collaborative tools. This was developed by Helen Blowers, and again, if you Google the term 23 Things, you will find hundreds and hundreds of different versions of this, mainly because, well, one of the reasons is because it was, when Helen created this, she created it with the Creative Commons copyright. So to allow everybody to be able to take this idea, take her site, use it, improve it, modify it, and transform it. As long as the stipulation is that whoever does take it, use it, and improve it, allows others to take what they use it, improve it, and as long as you provide citation back. So if any of you are not fully familiar with Creative Commons, this was a handout that Janet Nepke gave out in her talk about copyright and intellectual property that just gives a really nice explanation about how this self-licensing copyright guide works. So I'm going to pass this around, so if you wanted to take a look at it. Okay, so then from her site, I had taken that, and when I had taught for the Graduate School of Education in the Library Information Studies Department, originally it was a face-to-face course, and a portion of the course had an assignment where students had to go through this Learning 2.0 website. So they came to the site, they went through the tutorials about lifelong learning, they created their blog, and then they went through these different activities, each week having to complete at least one activity, each week having as part of the assignment that's included on the website to reflect upon how did this activity relate to my professional needs. So maybe if they were in the video sharing site, they would have to go to YouTube, find a video that was relevant to library sciences, highlight the URL, copy it, embed it into their newly created blog, and then reflect on how they might use this when they're actually a librarian. So the same is true for all the other activities. And then I also encourage the students to comment on each other's posts. So in online classes, you have the discussion forums, very powerful form of learning from each other. The blog, I kind of tried to encourage them to discuss among each other. So the first time the course was offered, it was just kind of stated. I encourage you all to comment on each other's blogs. It was a little bit, not enough. So the second semester it was offered, I said, okay, part of the requirement is that each week when you post a reflective blog entry, you're required to find a colleague's blog and make a response to one of their posts on how it relates to your needs. So that was for the course. Presented on that last year at CIT, and the students themselves, as they went through the Learning 2.0 activities, they found it very, very positive. This last time I taught the course, I did a survey at the end, and pretty much every student that filled out the survey rated the Learning 2.0 activity as either 1 or 2 as most important in relation to their learning for the course. And to keep in mind, it was a very self-directed activity that we all communicated on their process. So at the end of the CIT presentation last year, questions and comments, and someone came up with the comment, well, now, wouldn't this make a great faculty professional development tool? I said, well, yes, it really would. So since that time, the site has been transformed once again and has been revised to be more relevant to faculty needs. So instead of, find a video about libraries and how that relates to your profession, finding a video in your discipline and how much you use it in your teaching would be kind of a revision of that. It's still in the partially implemented stage, not fully implemented just yet.
I just have a question, Marina. This sounds cool, and it might cause a really thing over here. But just looking at the my student body is not a non-traditional student body, and we are learning completely online. But sometimes people email me at the start of the course and go like, I'm 58 years old, and I haven't done this, and my kids help me with stuff.
And if I could just comment that in the library information studies, the large demographic is also non-traditional students.
So in terms of management of this material, you found that the people that are not familiar with most of these technologies,
that was the idea, to get them familiar.
I mean, it's a pretty easy to use.
Yes, and actually I think I had kind of the opposite issue, that there were 1 or 2 of the students that were really, digital natives and familiar, and instead of pushing their knowledge and exploring things that they had not already known about, they would say, oh, well, I've used this before, and this is what it is. It said, well, if you've used it before, then go out and use something new. The idea is to explore and push. Try to talk that through in the class of, wherever you're at, go a little bit higher and further. And if you are at the very basic level, then respond in your reflection about, how this is working for you and what you're understanding.
And did the average number of hours you think it takes to do this whole thing?
Well, I offered it both in a full semester. So it was one activity each week out of, there were other group activities and developing a portfolio and discussion forum activity, in addition to the blog communications. So it was a good portion of their weekly activities. I'm not sure I can put a number on it yet. But I also was pretty lenient in, you don't have to go in any certain order. As long as by the due date, actually the due date was like 3/4 through the semester, so that it didn't conflict with the final group stuff. As long as you can show progress every week. And that was another thing a couple of students had a problem with, waiting till the very end and then trying to cram them all in. But it was stated in class and in the text, progress each week. However you manage to do that is expected and will be considered when you're given a grade for it. So, since this is still a work in progress for the faculty development piece, I have not yet had a cohort of faculty to go through it. Kind of hoping to do it over the summer, if possible, but I might need to wait until fall. And with students, you had incentives. You had, the incentive of the grades. And with faculty, I'm trying to find incentive. So we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But you can get to the site right from the URL that's on the back of the business card I gave you. And it's a little bigger. So it's open, and it's freely available for anybody to interact with. And you can come here and click on the different sections, go to the lifelong learning section, read about lifelong learning. There's some video tutorials that you can go through. Then you would go through and read about what it is, what a blog is. It'll give you some explicit instructions on how to create a blog. Blogger was a choice, but you were encouraged, if you've used Blogger before or you want to explore something else, you know, I'm not holding you to any certain tool that's out there. And so that you can go through and actually, you know, follow all of the activities and the tutorials that are on here. And then once the students go into one of the activities and create their blog, they would click on the link that said enter your entry into the class log. This is just a Google Doc that students would go in and select the item that they've completed. Okay, I've set up my blog, and my name is Robin. Last name, whatever, and the URL they would paste in. They would be able to copy the URL from their blog entry, and it shows them in the tutorials how to get the URL for that explicit post. And then the one thing I added here is, are you affiliated with UB or not? This way, anybody outside of UB is free to play with the site, but then if we want to track the participation at UB, you can go in here and say, yes, I am a UB person, and I can easily then sort the spreadsheet that will show. And so then I can go into Google Docs, and I would see a, actually I can just probably go back. And on the site, the students and myself can go in and then view the log entries. So this is where it would start collecting. Okay, so Robin, you know, it's completed the discovered tagging activity, and the date and time is an automatic feature of Google Docs. So I can, you know, if a student said, well, I did them throughout the semester, I can show them the date line and say, well, no, the spike right before says not. So they can also make their own graph if they're interested. And then myself, I can click on the URL that'll take them to the blog post, and that's how they can also look at their colleagues' posts. And it's all very sortable. So if I wanted to sort it by the last name of whoever, I can do that. Students and faculty in the world can do the same thing. So this is all public information. So if a student, if there's information about the privacy of the student, and I had some that wanted to be more anonymous, so, you know, Ryan Smith became not Ryan Smith. He gave another name, which I knew what it was, and so they were able to keep their identity private if they wished. But that's not really the way the internet works nowadays, so I did not have that too often. It was voluntary on the course of the student how they wish to proceed with that. I mentioned that all the students who did the evaluation about this activity rated it very highly, either 1 or 2 in relation to the importance to their learning. And we've modified it to a faculty development site. I am in the process of trying to find incentives to get a cohort of faculty together. This is the one I have accomplished so far, a certificate of completion. So you will be able to put it in your teaching dossier and put it up for consideration that you have made this self-directed lifelong learning effort towards your goal of becoming a more informed person of knowledge regarding collaborative tools. Might be able to squeeze out some gift cards out of the administration. We have a distinguished speakers series at UB. I'm contacting those individuals to see if we can get maybe a series of tickets or parent tickets. And if I'm really lucky, maybe some kind of toy or tool that will be raffled off among the cohort. I'm not going to be able to give one to every faculty member who completes it, but that was how the original 23 Things site was. The whole library staff participated in this voluntary effort, and then if you could show effective completion of all the tasks, you went into a lottery that said, okay, you're one of the people that will get this golden nugget. And I mentioned that the site, originally created by Helene Blowers, is licensed under Creative Commons. And the intent is that the newer version for faculty development, it's worldly available and it's going to be added to the SUNY Open Network so that everybody will be able to share from it. And participation from everyone worldwide is highly encouraged. You all have the URL. Go there and start going through the activities yourself, document and log. And one of the things I think is important is, especially in UB's cohort, is trying to get a facilitator role so that you're working with each other and commenting on each other's stuff. One other selection in that log entry was, in addition, I completed my blog entry for that week on tagging. I could have also commented on another person's blog. And then again, that's tracked. Do I have that at least for one each week? And so that is how you kind of encourage the communication. Okay, so I think I have about 5 minutes. 7? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to field some questions. I might have a couple other things I might want to talk about, but as I'm going through the questions, I'm just going to play this slideshow. These are some of the comments that I pulled from the students who went through this activity on what it meant to them. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so hopefully you can read that as we're going through, and I think I kept trying to add things. I want to talk about this aspect and that aspect, and then I thought, okay, I have a half an hour to take this out, take that out. So I hope I've given a clear picture of what this is. And I'm actually inviting people to contact me. I'm working with maybe one other faculty who I've talked with here at CIT that we may try to go into the ITG proposal process. It's very vague right now how we're going to do that, but we have 2 full weeks to talk about it. She already had a very good idea, proposal of how she would like to go forward to get the information literacy or transliteracy ideas into students' hands. And so if anybody would like to kind of, talk to me about that, we're going to meet through web conferencing and just kind of bounce some ideas together. So if you're interested to talk about that further, please contact me. If you would like to just kind of take the site as it stands now, I can make a copy of it in Google Sites. It's easy. You just go down, hit the duplicate button, share it with you. You can take it, become the owner. I can, step out of it, and you can then modify it and improve it for the rest of the good of society. So let's see if there's anything else that I want to miss on that. Questions?
I don't have a question, but I'm wondering if you could attach this to new faculty orientation, not as one of those required sessions, but as an option kind of thing.
Yes, I certainly can, and I think I will. So yes, thank you, Susan. This is from my campus, so yeah. Thanks.
Did you take the 23 things and just sort of update them and make sure that those things were
Yes, constantly. So actually in one of the semesters is, the tutorials and the sites are changing and the links are going bad constantly. The students, I ask them to, let me know when they find something that's out. I'm pretty sure I'm going to open it up like Wikipedia and allow for worldwide editing. And whenever an edit gets made, I get an email. So if anybody's going to make a nasty edit, I'll know, and then maybe I'll take back the worldwide editing. But but that was the first time we went through blog lines. If anybody remembers that, was the industry standard RSS reader. And in the middle of the semester, as they're coming up to that activity, blog lines went down, went away, was no longer. It's like, okay, teachable moment. This is how technology constantly changes, and you have to keep up with the principles and the ideas. So instead of blog lines, we're going to reach out to Google Reader as your RSS reader. If you know of something else that you'd like to use instead, you're welcome to do that. Reflect on it and share that idea and compare how these tools are working. Another question.
What for the faculty that you've done, what's the period of time?
Since it's faculty, it's not driven by a semester. But the original intent was, sometime over the summer. But I don't think I've gotten fully there to get started over the summer. I like Susan's idea of, getting into new faculty at our orientation. And I would probably give them the semester also, because that's another thing. Started out with 43 things. Helene Flowers brought it down to 23 things. First time I offered it was 23 things, and I thought it was too much. So now it's at 10 things. And I think one of the other revisions was Web 2.0, that's passé. So we got to do Web 3.0. So I put back in augmented reality and analytics. And I said, okay, now I'm getting back up there again. Too many things. So I took them back out. So I try to keep it manageable each time. I said, well, I want to know about this and that. And so I think a semester.
And you said this is available right now?
It is. If you go on, in fact, did you get a business card? Yes, go onto the back and go to my personal site, and then at the very bottom of my homepage, there's a link that takes you right to this site. And I would appreciate any comments or feedback, or if you are able to implement it at your institution over the summer, that'd be great.
Just another thought is that, we use a lot of students as TAs, especially our graduate students, to incorporate this. As we're using these tools, sometimes they go in and monitor. So as opposed to us having to teach them how to do that, to get there and do it, maybe incorporate that into graduate teaching.
Yeah, the teaching TA orientation and the new faculty orientation. Yes, I think that would be perfect.
Pardon? They didn't do teaching faculty classes, fully graduate programs. They have to teach class, so they can incorporate this into the class and make it more specific to that discipline. It'd be very helpful.
Did you do any kind of faculty assessment before you did this with faculty?
No, did not. Assessment with the students, but not assessment with the faculty yet. There was talk about general needs assessment for faculty at UB in relation to the offerings of the Teaching and Learning Center, but we're still working on that piece. So, one last question, or I'll hang it up and let Nathan get to his train and me back to Buffalo. Shuffle back to Buffalo. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it.